In a series of 3 videos, we will cover cross-tabulations and calculating percentages in a table with crosstabs. Perhaps the best way to understand crosstab percentages is to work through a few examples. Your practice assignment this week will allow you to do this, but I've also posted the Excel sheet used in this lecture on Blackboard. If it's helpful to you, you might want to pause this video now, download the Excel sheet, and work through this sample problem with me. Go ahead, I'll wait. Okay, here we go. In this example, I will use made-up data inspired by a real-life study. Recently, a group of researchers presented findings from a study showing men and women who use the dating app Tinder reported lower levels of satisfaction with their faces and bodies and having lower levels of self-worth than men and women who did not use Tinder. I've put a link to the information about this study in our links resources section on Blackboard in case you'd like to know more. The data were presented at the 2016 annual meeting of the American Psychological Association, and it's likely the results will be published in a journal at a later date. So, as I said, these data are based loosely on the Tinder study. I'm going to start my work on cross-tabulations by finding totals for these data. So, I want to click on the cell where I want my total to land. I'm going to insert the sum function and total the cells or highlight the cells I'd like to total, and then simply drag over to populate the other column. Okay, I'm going to do the same for the rows. All right, and so now what we have are called marginals because they're in the margin. We have totals for both of our columns and both of our rows. There's one more total we would like to have, or that we need, which is the total number of responses altogether. And so the easiest way to do that perhaps is to put an equal sign, insert the sum function, and just highlight all the cells and hit OK. And as you can see, our total number of responses in the study is 1,354. You could also just total either the column totals or the row totals, and you would also wind up with 1,354 participants. Let's take a moment to interpret the numbers in this table. We had 101 responses to the survey, 101 people who said that they do use a dating app and have a negative body image. 459 people in the study do not use the dating app and have a negative body image. 34 people say they use the dating app and have a positive body image. 670 people do not use the dating app and have a positive body image. And we can interpret our totals. 135 people in the study reported using the dating app. 1,219 people reported not using the dating app. 704 people reported having a positive body image, and 650 people reported having a negative body image. And again, the total number of participants was 1,354. Now, these frequencies are interesting, but we want to calculate some percentages to provide more meaning to the data than just the frequencies alone. There are 3 different ways that we can calculate percentages using cross-tabulations. We can calculate 1, the total percentage, 2, row percentages, or 3, column percentages. And in this video, I will demonstrate how to find total percentages. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to insert some extra rows. And when I did that, you will notice that my boxes that are highlighted are a little bit off. So I'm going to take a moment just to fix those. And now, with the magic of editing, the boxes are cleaned up and we're ready to go. But before we begin, let's review the formula for percentage, which is right over here. The percentage equals 100 times the frequency over the number. And so when we're calculating what are called total percentages, our N, or number, will always be the total number of participants, 1,354. So whatever percentage we're determining is going to be a percent out of 1,354. 354. So for the cell of people that use the dating app and have a negative body image, we have 101 responses. So we're going to plug in the formula for percentage equals 100 times, we're going to take the frequency over which total? The complete total of people in this study. And I'm going to press return, and I get an error. Something has happened. So let's take a look and see. If I were to plug in any number into this cell, let's say I plug in 5, you'll notice that both the column total and the total number of participants changes. And so we need to make it so that when we enter something into these blank cells, it does not disrupt our totals. And there's an easy way to do that. You can highlight your numbers. Well, first of all, before we highlight the numbers, if you click on an individual total, you can see that there was a formula that made that total. So what we're going to do is remove the formulas but keep the numbers. So I'm going to press copy for all of these, and I'm going to paste the numbers back in as what are called values. When I did that, I'm going to double click and you'll see that the formula is no longer there. So I've changed these cells from a formula created number to just a plain old number. And I'm going to do the same for these numbers as well. So I'll copy them and then I will paste as values. And I'm going to double check, make sure I did it right, and I did. Now we're going to try to plug in that formula again. 100 times the frequency. Oops, I need a parenthesis though, don't I? Over the total number, and we now have a number of 7. 7% of the total number both use the dating app and have a negative body image. 7% of the total. I want to drag this over to just populate the next cell, but in order to do that, you know we need to put a $ before the D and a $ before the 7 because we want the denominator to stay the same. And now I can drag it over, and 41% of our total did not use the dating app and had a negative body image. Okay, so I'll do the same for the next row. And I know already I'm going to be dragging over, so I'm going to put the $ in. It gives us 3% and 49%. The next thing I'm going to do is create marginal percent columns, so total percent columns for the rows and for the rows and for the columns. Okay. In order to do that, I'm simply going to sum the percentages. So we have to insert a sum and select the cells we would like to add up and hit OK. So we're going to do the same with the next row. And we can do this for the rows, but we can also do it for the columns. And the way it looks for the columns is a little bit different since the numbers are not adjacent to one another. I'm going to be to equal sign, insert the function sum. And then in order to select the cells, I'm going to click on the first one, hold down on the control button, click on the second one. And that way, both of the cells that we would like to have added are highlighted. All right. And I'll do the same for the next one. Okay, and I notice I have some decimals here, and I don't have them anywhere else, so I'm going to go ahead and format that cell not to contain decimals, just to make it all consistent. There you go. Now, just by looking at it, you'll notice that the marginal percentages for the rows adds up to 100, and on the columns adds up to 100 as well. And that way you know you've done your calculations correctly. With total percentages, we can answer the question, what percent of the sample, of the total sample? For example, we can say 10% of the sample uses the dating app, and we might be able to say 48% of the sample had a negative body image. These percentages utilize the marginals. We can also utilize the percentages within the cells. So 7% of the total sample use the dating app and have a negative body image. So just to reiterate, if we want to answer the question, what percent of the sample, total percentages are most useful. However, there are instances, particularly with independent and dependent variables, when either row or column percentages are much more useful. And so to find out more, tune into the next video on row percentages and cross tabulations.